how well do you know your neighbors, especially in the leafier climes here in the city of Cape Town? Because this week, Daily Maverick reporting, a man listed on Interpol's red notice for alleged drug trafficking in Romania found working as a personal trainer. The Virgin active in Constantia, his name is Stanislav Staminov, reportedly originally from Bulgaria, was operating as an independent contractor, not a Virgin active employee, but working at the gym in Constantia. Now, a red notice, it's not an arrest warrant, but it's a request to locate and provisionally arrest someone pending extradition. Now, Staminov is apparently also linked to Krasimir Kamenov, a Bulgarian national, murdered where? In Constantia in May 2023, who was himself on an Interpol red notice. Caryn Dolley, journalist and reporter, does extensive work looking into organized crime, writes for the Daily Maverick. Good morning, Caryn. Really appreciate your time. How is it that someone under Interpol red notice could be operating, working as a personal trainer right under our lovely noses in Constantia? Good morning.
Morning, Lester. Yeah, it sounds like something completely unbelievable, but I suspect this is happening around the world all the time.
If I look beyond Stanislav Staminov, I look at the Krasimir Kamenov murder that in Constantia in 2023. I look at the killing of a man known as the Steroid King, Brian Weinstein, in 2017, also in Constantia. Then there's also the residence and arrest of the alleged underworld boss Ralph Stanfield, currently on trial in the Western Cape High Court, also in Constantia. Gosh, what is it about Constantia that's providing such, is it reclusiveness, protection under those leafy trees there? What is it? Why is it seemingly attracting both local and international underworld figures?
Well, firstly, follow the money. In organized crime circles, that's one of the things investigators do, and I suppose we can apply it to what you're asking. But also, if we take away the individuals you've just mentioned, and perhaps even Constantia, I just want to point out that there are perceptions applied to organized crime. So there are optics associated with organized crime. In Cape Town in particular, we assume the so-called Cape Flats are sort of the gangsters and epicenters of the province. But that's gang violence. That can also be violence, not necessarily gang-related. But we're not really considering what else is happening in terms of gangsterism. What about money laundering? Where are those epicenters? And if we look at gangsterism as a whole, we look at all the crimes involved, the chain of criminality, which inevitably will spill over into private businesses, etc. I think that will take us to our more upmarket suburbs where there's more money.
Talk to me about this Bulgarian connection. It keeps resurfacing. Eastern or former Eastern Bloc countries, Eastern European countries. You've written extensively in your books documenting organized crime that since the globalization of the world's economies, around about early 90s, also here in South Africa, 1994, our borders opening up to all countries around the world, and with the good comes also the bad. What have you been looking at, and this link to local organized crime and people who are under the radar or on the radar of international crime fighting bodies finding place here in Cape Town?
I think we're increasingly becoming aware, Lester, that there are individuals from other countries. There are criminals from other countries operating in South Africa. And I guess the same can be said in reverse if we really look into that. But I think prior to 1994, there were criminal conduits. There were drug trafficking routes running through South Africa. Post-1994, those didn't just stop. These have been built onto. And I know recently I've reported on the idea that Mexican cartels are active in South Africa. They've been laboratory of drug manufacturing facilities that police have found. So increasingly we're seeing that, yes, there are global trafficking routes running through the country. Just because we're seeing more of it doesn't mean it hasn't been there before or it's been reduced before.
And the image of gang and gun violence, very much the eyes are on the Cape Flats. But you write extensively in your work for the Daily Maverick, as well as your various books, Clash of the Cartels, The Enforcers, even To the Wolves, where you've been looking into some of the police figures on either side of this scenario. The perception is in Cape Town and generally in South Africa, when we talk about gangs and guns, we talk about poorer communities, black and coloured communities in Cape Town. But particularly in your book, The Enforcers, inside Cape Town's deadly nightclub battles, you write that there is this thin veil between the illicit and what we'd call the legitimate economy. If you were to go spend a night out in Cape Town, whether it be a bar, whether it be a restaurant, whether it be your favorite, fanciest restaurant, if you look just enough, you'd see this very, and you shift this veil ever so slightly, you would see this interconnectedness between the illicit and the legitimate, and that all plays a role, whether it be in the leafy suburbs or whether it be in the streets of Manenberg. All of Cape Town's criminality seemingly linked.
Absolutely. I mean, organized crime by nature is transnational, which means there have to be links between this country and other countries. Then it means that we need, or there are, not that we need, we definitely don't need criminals from other countries operating with local gangsters, local criminals. And then I think to sort of speak directly to what you're saying, what we hear from the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee in Parliament at the moment is exactly what you're speaking to. It's where we think, or where we may be under the impression there's a divide between this incident and this event, but there's not. There are absolute connections. And what you're saying about going out, for example, is 100% correct. Several years ago in Cape Town, according to the police, there were mobs of men vying for control of nightclub security, which means if a venue was paying for that security, if they were being extorted into paying for that security, you could have gone to a restaurant, ordered a drink, and if you paid cash or whatever, that money could have ended up in the pocket of an extortionist. And I mean, that's a very basic example, but it's as simple as that.
So then how do we shake from the stillness of our ignorance, us very well-meaning middle-class Cape Townians who are very well-meaning? I live in a quiet suburb. I pay for my private security. I'm not involved. I don't know anyone involved in criminality. How do we shake Cape Townians, very well-meaning, that criminality is all around, not just on the Cape Flats, but even the people, the very, very quiet neighbours living next door to us, behind high gates and electric fences, even here in Constantia, in Tableview, in other parts of Cape Town? How do we shake Cape Townians out of this ignorance?
Well, I understand exactly what you're saying. People thinking in pockets, like assigning or attributing an area to a specific incident.
Unable to get Caryn Dolley back on the line, a troubled line, but hopefully we can have her back on for a more substantial interview.